Hello everyone and welcome back to Murph's Models. Today I want to make a diorama base for Mater to sit on.
It's gonna be fun.
For that purpose, I like to go back to basics. I have a plate and I have lots of newspaper and lots of wallpaper paste and lots of glue and lots of plasticine. So I am going to make with this circle a nice big disc of plasticine onto which I can glue down some paper mache. With a knife, smooth it down like that and then eventually, voila! And I'm going to, first of all, just put some glue over the top of everything. So I'm going to start off with nice big sheets of paper. Ooh, horoscope. Has it got mine? No, it hasn't got my thingy on it. Double layer of tissue, which is good. You know, more layers, thicknesses the better. So keep on gluing on. Oh, and a lovely big spiral of PVA glue. Always works a treat. There we go. Smudge it all over so it's nice and thick. And then yet more layers of newspaper and tissue paper and newspaper. And after that, dip some calico or even an old torn up t-shirt in some water just to get it all wet and nice and malleable. And then you can put that on top of some more PVA. It'll soak through, all that glue will soak through into the calico and you'll get a lovely, strong, rigid surface to work on. You need to let this dry overnight, and then in the morning, before you cut it out, mark up the sides so that you know exactly where it's going to go once it's taken off. And then it's time to slice it off the plate. Oh, and then you discover that half of the paper mache is actually glued to the plasticine and not to the paper mache surface. But no need to cry. All you need to do is take that paper off and glue it back on underneath. That bit goes with that. You need to make sure you've got a mark so you know where it sits, and then we're going to put that down there like that. I'll glue that down now with some paper mache around the edges. Then finally weigh down the edges with your favourite cola preference. Mine, it's Pepsi. Now we're going to do some barrels for Mater. Some of these guys shouldn't be too tricky to do because all you really need is a toilet roll. Find something like this salt shaker that will sit through the toilet roll and therefore be the right size to put a plug in the top. So get some corrugated card like this, and if I put this on here and this around, find a blade, find a reasonably sharp blade and cut it out. Before we glue this in, it's got a ridge through it here, so what I need to do is cover it in a bit of cardboard. Just pop it in there. Use some masking tape here, like that. I want to now put the ridge on the top of the barrel. What I'm going to do for that is wind some cardboard around. I'm going to do a strip of card that goes thicker at one end and thinner at the other end. So the first thing to do is, as I've done here, is to twist it around so that it's already in the shape that you want it to be. Okay, now next, glue that, then wrap it around. And there we go. Also, I'll just put a bit of glue on that edge because that will help to round it off a bit. Now is probably a good time to put our top in here. And just push it down slightly because there's a bit of a ridge. Another thing on these barrels are these ridges. I think they're to strengthen the barrels. So what I'm going to do for that is use my favourite ingredient. Yes, it's Sculpey yet again. I am going to first of all do some snakes or a long snake, and I'm going to cut this in half. Okay, once we've done that, pull it apart, then a bit of glue. So sit that on there and then just wrap it around like that. I mean, what could be easier? It couldn't be easier than that, could it? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Then brush again. Make sure your brush is quite dry and brush the glue in either side. Push that in there. It's like a bit of a dent. These barrels are never perfect. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they've always got bashes and dents in them. So that's just adding authenticity to the prop. Now I am going to put a top on the top here. Because all barrels have a little cap on the top you unscrew, I am going to need a straw like this, and also one of these skewers and a wooden ball on the end of that to stop the straw from falling off the skewer. With a nice sharp scalpel blade, I am literally going to cut away there like that. Now what I have is a lid thing to go on there. Now it's time to get these oil drums around. And once the drum is dry, then dry brush all over. So I'm going to rust up these barrels, and the way I'm going to do that is using rust water-soluble paint. You need to shake it really well. There's a ball bearing in there, and it does actually create a really quite nice rust effect. You can give it various layers. See if you can find something similar to this on the good old interweb, because that's where I found this guy. Now I'm going to make a wheel or two, and I've cut out these discs. Now what I want to do is put a hole in the center just to help me with the size of that hole. I'm going to get these two buttons, which I think are pretty good size-wise for the inside hole. Glue in here. I'm going to push this inside like that. And for this one, I'm going to go in here like this. And once they're both cut out, glue them both together, and then cut out a piece of card and glue that inside the middle section of the tire. So I've got my 3 rings here. Now these 2 are the outer rings, and this one is for the inside, so that will glue in like that, and this one will glue on the outside. Half an inch there. And this piece of card goes on the outside of the tire. What I need to do now is give them a bit of a crest. For this, I'm going to use Daz, which is brilliant. It's water-based and it doesn't need to be baked. Roll it out. I'm literally just going to start pressing it down, see if it works. I've not made a tire like this before, but it's always a first time. Use a bit of cardboard like this just to try and flatten it all off a bit. Right? Yeah. Now that this is halfway dry, I'm just going to go around and put these indents in, which tires generally have. And once I've done that, it's time to give the tires a nice dark undercoat before a bit of grey paint to highlight them.
It's time to make the hubcaps for Tow Mater's sign.
So what I'm going to do is find 3 hubcaps from these buttons. Aha! Those 3 look perfect to me. I'm going to pop one there. And I've also got a ball of Sculpey on top. I press that down and try and make it even across the whole thing. On this one as well, do this. That's another one. And a third one here. Just one in like that. Over here, I'm going to cut a strip of cardboard off. Go about like this, I think. 3. Some I'm going to cut the corners off, and others I will leave on their own, because I think, looking at the picture, that there's a little bit of variation between some of them. Once I've cut them out, it's time to put a whitewash over and then colour them in with some paint. So blue and 2 yellow ochre base coats. Using the picture, I'm trying to replicate the numbers. I'm not doing a particularly good job, I don't think, but you know, I'll do my best. A little bit of squiggly on the sides, and this second one, I'm going to block most of it in with the brown Sharpie pen that I'm using. These Sharpies are great for this kind of stuff. And as you can see also, I'm using a pencil guide for the lettering, just so I get it kind of in the right spot. So now it's time to stick these onto my sign using some double-sided tape on the back. There we go. Now it's time to paint up these 3 hubcaps. Boom, boom, and boom. And then it's time to get some PVA glue and glue the hubcaps onto the post like that. Mix a bit of a warm brown sunny amber colour onto the top of the hubcaps where the sun would naturally hit it, and also just touch up on the hook as well. Don't forget those tyres, they need a little bit of a highlight too, and the little hooks that are holding the tyres onto the sign. For the road surface, I am concentrating on that. So I'm going to have a bit of asphalt, and then I'm going to have a bit of the desert ground. I'm going to do a layer using DAS, and then use my sawdust technique for this area with some stones also made out of DAS. And then I'm going to make some grass too. So here I have our Papier-Mâché base. And what goes on top of this is Mater. I think he should sit to one side, because then we can add these barrels. Also, I have these tyres that I've made up. I think the road edge would sit like that. And the same on the other side. To give the texture on the road surface, I'm going to use this P80 sandpaper. A bit of double-sided tape on this cardboard tube. Cut it off as well. And wrap the sandpaper around the tube. Now push those 2 bits on like that. Pop some foil onto your work surface so you don't get it all grubby. And then it's out with the DAS and smooth it down. And even use a nice big glass jar. Smooth it over. Keep it nice and flat till it's probably about, 2 millimeters, maybe 3 millimeters thick. Trim the sides, but don't keep the sides too straight, so flatten them out again. Roll it over a pin like you're baking a lovely apple pie, and smooth the pastry out over the papier-mâché dome and flatten it down onto the surface. And a bit of trimming, just like that apple pie. Using this sandpaper here, let's see if I can put a nice texture on here. There we go. That looks like a road to me. And now it's time to get some more DAS and make up some little pebbly bits that go on the side so that the road looks kind of a bit bashed about. You know, seen better days. So yeah, lots of pebbles. And then even add some cracks in the road on the asphalt there. Fairly easy to do with this DAS. And don't forget, it'll dry hard just from being exposed to the air. So as you can see, the ground here around Mater's demolition yard is quite pinky browny coloured. I've already mixed a colour that I kind of think might work. Now let's have a go. Let's put some of this colour down in between the rocks. Yeah, I think that might work. I'm quietly confident. And once the paint is dry, it's time to put some glue on top, and then sprinkle some of that sawdust that you've collected over the years from the carpenters around the corner from where you live. And once you've done that, it's good actually to give it a spray with water so that it all glues together. And use your brush to clear the sawdust off the top of those little pebbles. I really love these furs that we've got here. And I'm looking for something that might look like grass. Actually, this one looks good. Because if you look at the fibres there, if we cut a bit of that off, just snip at the base so you don't lose any of the fur. Don't cut it from the top, cut it from the bottom. But look at that. That really could be grass. I think that might work really well. A little bit of snipping. Get rid of the sort of perfect length. A bit like thinning hair, really. You take those bits out. I think even more like it's grass. Grass on those long prairies. Okay, now it's time to paint this road. And I've got some black here and then a bit of water so that it isn't too severe. Sort of water it down. And on the pebbles, not all of them need to be black or dark, just a few perhaps. And out with a hairdryer so that you can see what it looks like once it's dry. Okay, so now let's put it all together. Pop it on here. And now it's time to glue on all those lovely little bits of grass that we've made up from artificial fur. A pin's really handy, and I use PVA because it dries nice and clear. And use the pin to spread the grass out on the top so that it looks more bushy and grassy. Don't forget the stones too, lots of little pebbles made from Daz. Just glue them on using PVA and use a pin to push them into place. It's time to glue on our black trim. It's going to go all the way around here. And then it's ready for the turnarounds. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, why not click subscribe and indeed give us a like. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Murph's Models.